Welcome back to Big Board. Hey, so I thought I'd give you a quick update and let you know what's going on. I just got back from the Advanced After Combat con that isn't a con. It's invite only for all the podcast listeners and those folks that enjoy the raucous behavior of the hosts. It's quite a bit of fun, and the guests that are on there. And it was, for me, 2.5 days of wargaming fun. Got to play a lot of opposed games, which was very cool, and some bigger games as well, some monster games. And I'm clipping while I chat to you. I'm trying to kill two birds with one stone. But what I wanted to focus in on is, you know, there was 30, 35, 40 people there at this this con. It was in Dallas, and lots of fun. Good guys. They all like to have a brew and eat some bad food at the hotel and all that sort of good stuff. But most of all, they like to roll dice and have some fun. So we did that. And I had an opportunity to spend a little bit of time with Mitchell Land, the designer of the Next War series, and Mark Simnich, and hung out with them and got to see some new prototypes of bits and pieces and talk about what ifs for next topics and things like that. So that was kind of interesting. But the highlight, of course, was Jeff Newell coming to spend time with me and stay at my house, and we played actually right here at this table. And sorry if the light's kind of bothersome. I thought my screen was dirty, but it's not. It's just very bright outside, and I have been in a conference room for 3 days, and the glare is killing me. Anyway, the highlight was Jeff and I playing Lock and Load, modern system here, and having some fun with that. Didn't last as long as I'd hoped it would. It was only 3 or 4 turns out of 7, but Jeff was a good sport, and we had a lot of fun. And then the main event was Jeff and I driving up to Dallas on Wednesday for an early start. Mistakenly reading the instructions that we could begin setting up Wednesday afternoon, when in fact it was really, or Wednesday morning, which in fact it was really Wednesday evening. So we hung out and drank beer and talked and messed around. And not to be outdone, is because we couldn't get into the main gaming room, we went and bought 2 poster board frames, put the 2 maps for Next War Poland on it, and we started setting up in the lobby of the hotel around the little sort of side table thing, and got the game all set up. So then as soon as we could get in fact, we actually played the opening parts of the turn out there in the lobby. So we got started, played all Wednesday night till quite late, and parts of Thursday, I think all Thursday in fact. And we got 4 turns done, and we played Tactical Surprise scenario, the campaign scenario. We wanted to get a little bit further into it because we both wanted to see and experience NATO's awesome response to the Soviet lunge into Poland. But alas, we didn't get terribly far. So we called it at about, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 or maybe 6 o'clock in the evening. And lots of stops playing that game. We had lunch, and we chit-chatted with folks and caught up with everybody who we hadn't seen since last year, or since May, as the case may be. And then packed that up Thursday night. And Thursday night, I then set up OCS Korea, the Forgotten War, 2nd edition. And man, I tell you what, there's something about the reprint of the map that is significantly better than the original. And the same goes for Tunisia too. It is also a significantly better looking map. The original really was a tired old hoe, right? It really had that 80s look and feel to it, whereas I think the tones are slightly different, or maybe the finish on the paper is different, but the map looks actually really good. So there was a full campaign of that going, but we started the China intervention scenario Friday morning. Was it Friday morning? I think it was. So we got set up Thursday night, and then Friday morning we started super early. Well, not super early, I guess. It wasn't like 6 o'clock in the morning, but it was 8 a.m. We were rolling dice, and only made a few errors. I missed the +2 for intervention initiative modifier, which did give the Allies a back-to-back turn once in December, and that probably wouldn't have happened, I think, with the +2 mod. But everything else worked out okay, and there were a few other little niggles here and there that we missed just with the series rules. That even with I was playing with Johan, and he's a fairly experienced player, and it was interesting to see. And this is not a criticism of Johan, but it's interesting to see someone who's played a lot of OCS Korea #1 and then OCS in general, that even with a very experienced player, which I'm not, right? Because I've done maybe 80 turns or 100 turns or something like that. Probably not 100, maybe 80. But guys that have played hundreds of games, not hundreds of turns, even they having to sometimes stop and pause and double check, and you've got to really pay attention to the wording in the rules. It's not because there are exclusions or anything like that, or exceptions or things of that nature. It's just very precisely worded, and as you get into the game, you're like, I'm about to get screwed here, so I need to go double check that rule, see if I can stop that guy doing that, whatever that is, right? So that was always fun. To be seeing us doing that, going backwards and forwards, looking for the tiniest advantage we could have. And I'll have to say, while we were playing, one of the guys came up and said, so what do you think of OCS Korea? Was it good? Blah, blah, blah. Where would you rank it? And I was like, man, we've only played 2 turns. I couldn't really tell you. But I can tell you now, after playing 7 turns, we cranked through 7 turns in a day. And it was like being in a casino, right? You have no idea what time it is, what it looks like outside. They're just the lights and the game and the dice. And occasionally you would race out and get a soda or a beer or whatever it was, depending on the time of the day. And you just played. And it was, I think at 8:30 or 9 o'clock, maybe it wasn't even that late. Maybe it was just 7:30. I don't know. Let's call it 7:30, 8 o'clock. We stopped and we're like, wow, that was nearly 12 hours straight of gaming. I went out and ordered some French fries and onion rings and had them brought to the table for dinner. and that was dinner. Until Tyler bought pizza and I stole some of his pizza. And thank you, Tyler. And so someone asked me, what do you think? Well, now I think I can tell you that in particular for this scenario, we played the China intervention, the late part of the war. It would have to be probably my second most favorite OCS module. I think it's really extraordinarily well balanced. It has a very different feel to it than any of the East Front games at all, just because of the composition and the makeup of the Chinese army. They have this relatively high strength firepower capability, but then they've got this really nifty, some of them have these nifty action ratings, or ER ratings, or whatever you want to call them, and that can really be a game changer. No armor to speak of, but you've got these relatively powerful divisions with 4 ratings facing off against some mediocre Americans and some quite average South Koreans, and then the NATO forces all pretty much are fairly sucky, and they're very small, right? The Turks are a 3-4-3 or a 3-3-3 or something like that, whereas the Americans have a wide range. So you've got the elite Marines, a 10-5-5 or 10-5-6 or whatever it is, and then some armor that are 4 rated and stuff like that, and matching those off. And the biggest differential ended up being the high capacity for movement and mobility that the Allied forces had against the Communist forces, was their ability to fight, disengage, try and set up a line or set up a defensive position somewhere. And that was really, really cool to see that sort of dichotomy of capability go through. And then you had the ability for all these infantry-based units of the Chinese able to weave their way through the lines, try and block things off or turn a flank or whatever the case may be. So after 7 turns, we were on our way to Seoul. So the last offensive line that the Allies had set up was probably 6 hexes from Seoul, but on the eastern side of the map, they still had a pocket of forces, and I forget the name of the town. There was one large US headquarters, and we'd cleared out the Chosin Reservoir and all that sort of fun stuff. Had a lot of that's an interesting scenario unto itself there, but did that, and then there was this. So there were these 2 pockets around Seoul and one around the eastern coast, and that was where it was really, I think, about to start to get quite interesting to see what would have transpired as the Chinese offensive has sort of petered out, because they had this massive amount of supply and steps, and they really, I really used all of that to bash back the NATO forces as quickly as I could, with the view that, given that it was, if we had to play longer term, it was going to be a 70-turn scenario, that somewhere closer to Seoul we would have had a strategic pause or operational pause, rebuilt some units. I rolled really poorly for supply, only rolled 7 once. Everything else was under 7 for supply, so we only got 2 or 3 supply a turn, and only had 1 good roll for packs and equipment as well. So fascinating scenario. As you could tell, I was kind of excited about it. It was very, very cool. Quickly switching back to Next War Poland. Enjoyed that. We collectively made some errors in that game as well. That is a complex game to play, but after you've played several turns, the momentum picks up. And one of the things you've got to keep in mind with that game, there's not always going to be an initiative turn. An initiative turn is a much longer turn than a contested turn, and we found that we had a couple of contested turns and they played pretty quickly, and we got through them relatively painlessly. Loved the air war, loved the missiles, loved the special forces activities, enjoyed the challenges of the both sides' fragile forces, and I would highly recommend that game as long as you're patient and want to, take your time playing. Yeah, that was it. I think I just want to check in and say hi. It's been a while. I'm hoping that the rest of the day today. Got up early this morning at 6 and drove back home because I went to see my son. He's back from college for the weekend. And later today, I'm going to go try and finish up Armored Knights downstairs in Kiev 41. I'm going to get that finished today, and then I might set up OCS Korea and give this China intervention another bash. All right, talk to you guys soon. Hope you're having a great weekend. It's gorgeous weather here, as you can see. I hope everything's going well for you. Bye.